Hello and welcome to another episode of the Course Creators Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Cordiner. Now, today we are going to be flying high, my friends. Let's get up there. Let's look at the world from a totally new perspective. We are leaders. We are course creators. We are experts. We are authors. We are speakers. Our job in the world is to stand up, to grow tall, to grow high, to be visionary. And to do that, we also have to be okay with putting ourselves up to levels that other people are afraid to fly to. We have to be able to fly high so that we can help other people fly high too. Now, I have an amazing guest today. I am really excited about this. We are talking today to Mr. Chris Sambolec. Now, he has been flying quite literally in a plane for over 20 years. He has over 20 years experience as a flying instructor in cargo operations, airlines, business aviation. His experience as a pilot, and he's going to tell us more, but it's taken him all around the world. He's had opportunity to fly planes that I can't even pronounce the names of. I've got this man here who has completed a degree in actual aviation management and has been hugely involved in safety departments in the aviation industry. He's passionate about bringing knowledge to the next generation of pilots and encouraging safe attitudes, safe mindsets, so that not only can he help them as pilots fly high in their own lives, but to safely take their people, their cargo, their passengers, their dreams to the next level too. Now, it's really interesting when I met Chris. Chris just recently joined one of my course creation group coaching programs. And interestingly, something that a lot of people don't know about me is I actually spent 3 years writing accredited training for an international defense and aviation organization. So I have been working, living day in, day out in an airport hangar down in Jandakot in Perth. For those of you who are not familiar with Perth, it's an area in Western Australia, working with the CASA Aviation Authority and the National Qualification Framework to help flying instructors. And I've actually qualified flying instructors in their teaching and assessment qualification. So it was this amazing thing. When I started talking to Chris, I was like, no way, we have this bizarre kind of connection. And it's been amazing to watch Chris now literally take what is an incredibly practical type of training into the online space. You know, who would have thought that you could do flight training online? I mean, we think that you kind of would have to be sat in an actual plane. Now, of course, there are elements like that, as there is with any kind of competency-based training. But I really wanted to bring Chris on the show today to show you that any type of training can be put online, that any kind of expertise, consulting can be put online. And we're going to get some tips and tricks from Chris today. He's going to share his experience with us about his own transition to taking something very practical into the online space, how he did that, what his experience was like doing that, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and also how his business has completely changed as a result of adding this online component to something he does. Chris Sambolec, it is absolutely wonderful to have you here today. Welcome to the Course Creators Podcast. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, you've got to live up to that amazing introduction. Now, you're over in Vietnam at the moment, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So one great thing about my career is it's allowed me to travel all around the world, and we've spent 10 years in Hong Kong. I was working out of Hong Kong, and recently we've moved to Vietnam, so we live in Hoi An, and it's just absolutely beautiful here.
Pretty exciting stuff. You know, a lot of course creators going in the online space, you know, one of their ambitions is to be able to create a business that can allow them to live, work, and travel anywhere. And what's really cool, you know, you are a power couple. Your wife, Kim, is also on one of the podcast episodes here, who has her own business as well. And what I love is that you guys have built businesses of your own independently. You're parents, you have a beautiful family, and you're making it work. You know, you're turning your dreams into reality and living this lifestyle that people can only dream of. I mean, I would love to ask, how did you even get into this aviation space that you're in? What was it that made you decide, right, I'm just going to go and live my life tens of thousands of feet up in the air?
Yeah, well, I grew up around the industry. So I was an expat as a child, and I grew up around aviation. And so for me, I always wanted to get into it. I grew up around pilots and so on, and managed to have lessons early on in life. and when I was young, and that was it. There's no looking back from that point. So yeah, just kept going forward and going from job to job and getting experience through my flying career to where I'm here at this point now, which is great.
Now, you've been consulting and working with some of the largest aviation organizations out there. I mean, there's very few organizations that you have worked with in some capacity with your advice and guidance in this space. You are very successful in your area. You have an incredible career background behind you and a huge amount of expertise. What was it that made you decide to move to adding this online component to your world? Because a lot of people will go, you're so successful at what you do, you've got all these clients, you've got all this work, why would you need this online element? What made you kind of make that decision?
Well, to start off in aviation, when you become a captain and so on, you sort of reach a plateau. There's not much more to do after that. And I've been exploring some ideas to further things to see where I could take my career further, and completing a degree in aviation management as well. I was looking at where I could go after that. Now, it struck me one day when Kim and I, you mentioned my wife, we were sitting there talking about online courses and webinars and so on. And she said, you should do this. You always get asked the same questions over and over and over again. So why don't you make something where you answer these questions? And it's particularly geared towards younger kids that, maybe like 14 years old, that are looking at what their career is going to be. Oh, I think I want to become a pilot, Dad. So this is a chance for them and their dad, or them and their mum, to sit down and go through this course and answer those questions so that they can know what their future will bring and what steps they need to take. A lot of that sort of stuff I didn't have for myself. I didn't have that information, and made a couple of mistakes and missed a couple of opportunities. So I think giving that to these young aspiring pilots is something very worthwhile.
Yeah, so for you, it's about not having to constantly repeat yourself with the same stuff, but also give opportunities to people that wouldn't otherwise be there. Because I imagine, some parents would think, oh, going to flight school training or pilot training or whatever, you've got to be near an airport to begin with. You've got to be near those facilities. You've got to have probably a little bit of money in the pocket too. I imagine, that accessibility stops so many potential young pilots joining the industry. So you're using online courses then as a way of bringing that access to that opportunity to people who otherwise wouldn't have it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like you said, for me, I was very fortunate where I grew up around the industry, so I had almost the inside knowledge, and yet even still I still had so many questions and so many holes in my knowledge as to what to expect. But here I am providing that online course, so then that knowledge is now accessible. So you see there's a lot of stuff going around on the Facebook groups and that, all people asking bits and pieces of questions, but I see they're not getting the full answer, or it's, people on the same level, their peers, giving each other advice. And so, with 20 plus years of flying experience, I'm trying to say, no, look, this is the real deal. This is what you can expect. And this online course allows me the medium to really spread that out there.
That's so cool. And I really love how, you've used online courses to provide those opportunities. I think anyone listening who has more of like a physical based business or a physical in-person type service could really be listening to this now and hopefully be getting some ideas as to how could you maybe take out those most commonly asked questions? How could you geographically reach people that geographically would otherwise be disadvantaged from accessing your expertise, your knowledge, or your training? To get people thinking about that a bit more, Chris, could you give us some examples of what you teach in your online flying courses? Just to give people this, I want to help people spark these ideas. What kind of stuff that might be very normally in person can I put online? Can you tell us what's in your course to help people think about that?
Yeah, well, for a start, one thing that people don't understand about when they go to become a pilot is that there is a large commitment, not only financially, as you mentioned earlier, that you need a bit of money to fly, but there's also going to be a lot of discipline and a lot of study that's required. So there's a lot of attitude that you need to be prepared for when becoming a pilot. You've got to study a lot of things, and you've got to put a lot of time in on the ground to actually flying. And a lot of people don't know that. So when they go in and start their flying lessons and want to make a career out of it, they're kind of shocked, and they're like, oh, wow, I'm surprised. I didn't realize this is what I signed up for. And so I'm really trying to prepare people so they don't get that shock. They don't get that surprise. They don't quit. That's the one thing is if you can set your mind to it, then you're not going to quit. If you know what you're looking to expect, you're not going to quit. So these people don't quit, and then they are hopefully more efficient and effective in their training because they know what the road ahead looks like.
Amazing. So with this practical based training, you're using online to teach attitudes around the subject, and you're also using the online learning to manage expectations. So to prepare people for work in that industry and to manage their expectations around what it will be like to study, train, qualify, and work in that industry too.
That's correct, yes.
Amazing. So again, anyone listening here, I hope Chris here is giving you some ideas as to how you might, use attitudinal and expectation-based training in your online elements. I love it. Now, Chris, one of the hardest things about moving from face-to-face to online is that transition. Yeah, I think actually people who are used to teaching face-to-face actually struggle the most going online because you're so used to teaching in a particular way. I find that brand new people to teaching full stop actually find it easier to start teaching online because they've got nothing to compare it to. So for you, I'd love to know, like, what have you found one of the most challenging parts about being an expert and spending so many years doing one thing one way? What's been challenging about going online? Is there any part that you found the hardest?
I do find filming the hardest. I find when I get in front of the camera, that's probably the hardest bit. And I really try to make a big effort as you put at the start of the course, to get on the Facebook Lives and really get used to that flow of being in front of the camera. I did find it very difficult, the first initial filming. To not be the newsreader, to loosen up a little bit, let it flow a little bit more naturally, and so on. I was just wanted to get the information right, and I was just sort of criticizing myself in the back of the head initially. Is that correct? Is that the right message that you want to give? Is that the right words you want to use? So I found that very difficult. And as I got more and more into it and practiced a bit more with it, I started to get a little bit more at ease and a little bit more natural in front of the camera.
Amazing. And so, yeah, a lot of people do say that filming bit's the hardest bit, that looking down the lens, and there's so much going on in your head, sometimes you can barely put a sentence together. You said that for you, what really helped you move through that, because you've done it, you were just like everyone else at the beginning, I can't speak, and what was I going to say, and where am I looking? You've pushed through and you've done it. So aside from, you mentioned there jumping on Facebook Lives in our secret Facebook group has been really helpful for you. Can you give anyone else any tips, because you've fought through this, for the people that are looking down that camera lens for the very first time and are just going, ugh, can you give us some tips of what helped you get through that?
Don't get frustrated with the outtakes. If you have to do it, just do it again, do it again, do it again. I started snapshotting a couple of outtakes just because there'd be like hilarious face, my face gestures and so on. So I started, snapshotting those and sending them to Kim.
Brilliant. I hope we see the Chris Sambolec bloopers video.
So look, you got to make a little bit of fun out of it, and but at the end of the day, it's you just learn by doing, right? You just got to keep doing things over and over again. Don't quit. Don't take a step back. Just keep, have a cup of tea and a little break if you really fall into a rut, but otherwise just keep going.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if it's that feeling of pressure or panic, or I'm in this moment right now and I'm in panic situation. Now, I'd love to tap into your aviation expertise here. I mean, you guys are in the cockpit flying gigantic lumps of metal through the atmosphere. Now, you're teaching people how to fly for the first time, and quite frankly, there's very few things that I can think of that would initiate panic, that would initiate that sense of, oh my goodness. How, what do you, I really want to tap into this, because course creators feel this sense of panic a lot. Now, I know we're not hurtling through the atmosphere with 10 tons of metal underneath us that we're in complete control of, but the sense of panic and the sense of fear is the same. You are teaching people all the time how to push through moments of fear and to help people get that sense of control back, to remain calm, and to continue with their mission, to continue with the task in a calm and controlled way. What do you teach your student pilots who are going through that we as course creators could perhaps learn from?
Yeah, you're right. One of the things, the big thing about flying is knowing what to do when things go wrong, right? That's flying's actually quite boring. You sit in the seat for 14 hours and you're just sitting in the steel tube. There's only a little bit of exciting at the start and finish, but our expertise is when things go wrong, that when we know what to do when things go wrong. So I can understand that you're controlling panic, you're controlling fear, you're taking stock of the situation. And that's where the attitudinal training is coming in, is that I teach people that, look, you've got to assess the situation, you've got to analyze what information you have with you. We have a thing called crew resource management in aviation, where you seek information from all sources. So the people you're working with, the aircraft systems, people on the ground, and so on. You want to get a good collection of information, and you want to evaluate your choice on that information. And then you're also relying on your training. You've been trained in these steps, and you've practiced on the ground, you've practiced beforehand, you've practiced a million times in your head. So when you get to that situation, you're prepared for it. And I think the same thing applies with this. You're doing the practice, you're doing the training in the online course that you're providing, you're doing the practice on the Facebook Live videos and so on. So when you get to it, you've done your practice. All right, it's time to take control of the situation.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting, because that we've all been there. We've all had to do our videos the first time. We've all had to jump on a live conference call for the first time. And that sense of dread and fear and sense of being out of control is real. I mean, it's a genuine biological reaction, and it's really, really interesting. But I think what I want people to get from this episode, we're talking to an experienced pilot here, is when we film our videos and they stuff up, or we forget our words, or it didn't come out how we wanted it to come out, we are not literally going to fall out of the sky and plummet to our deaths. It's not that bad for being course creators. But I like what you is my microphone still working?
It is now. Yeah, I lost you there for just a second.
As a pilot, one of the things that you teach your pilot students is that when you're in this moment of problem, you said to collect information from all sources. Now, I can relate to this as a course creator, and working with people for so many years is what we do is we get stuck in our heads. And I think the problem occurs is when we start judging ourselves from our own definition of what we want the situation to be like, and then we go, I'm not living up to that, I'm not quite there, and we use only our own self and our own thoughts as the source of our facts. And that's when we freak out and we actually completely misjudge, misinterpret, and blow out of proportion whether we're good. Well, my course is rubbish, I'm no good at this, no one's gonna like it, blah blah blah. Let's take this lesson from our pilot here. Collect information from all sources. Go to a Facebook group, say, hey guys, here's my video. Do you have any feedback? You know, don't just give it to your mum, give it to a friend, give it to a colleague, give it to a coach, give it to someone you completely don't know at all, and collect feedback from all of those different sources, because, you know, our own heads is not all sources. It's only our own viewpoint. And often we distort that completely. Yeah, I liked the fact that you said, go back to your training. You would remind those pilots to go back to their training. If you're following a course creation program like mine, anyone in Concept a Course or my How to Create Courses course, there are systems and processes and instructions there for a reason. You know, I've put those together after 10 plus years in the industry because that system works. You know, trust the process, trust the policies. They've been put there for a reason. If you follow those, you can't get it wrong. You're not going to plummet from the sky if you follow those instructions and you know, follow those procedures that are there. Really cool. I'm loving the tips that you can take this tip from aviation and pull this in. So, you know, you've taken this content, you've found ways in which you can, you know, eternalize and digitize stuff that you're repeating over and over again. You've worked through the bits that are hard. What bits for you going online were quite surprising, were surprisingly easy, or you found surprisingly exciting or enjoyable? You know, what parts of this process for you have just gone like, I love that bit?
Yeah, well, what you just mentioned something about collecting the information and so on. Now, there was one part in the course where we had to put the survey out to people to see if we've got the right information in our course. Now, before I did that, I was still a little hesitant, like, am I wasting my time? Am I doing the right thing? Do people really want this? I don't know. Not sure about this. So I did the form. And I said, you know, is this going to be the right stuff? And I purposely left a couple of questions out. And, you know, is there anything else to add? You know, tell me. So I got positive responses on everything that I was including. Everything that I was including. Yes, I want to hear about this. Yes, I want to hear about this. Yes, I want to hear about this. And then all the suggestions for what extra they wanted to hear were all the things that I purposely left out. So it really gave me positive affirmation at that point, and I completely tilted into, yes, let's get this done, let's get this out there, people want it. That was quite a big breakthrough moment for me. And yeah, had you not instructed me to go collect that information, I probably would still be sitting in the hesitant box. The other thing that I actually found quite easy to use and I feel like I'm doing quite well at is actually building the active campaign automations and tying it into the Thinkific. I find Thinkific quite user-friendly. I find Active Campaign very user-friendly. I'm enjoying making the algorithms for the automations. I've been helping Kim with her course as well, set that up and get the emails flowing with the automations there. So yeah, it's been great.
Wicked. I love it when people say that they've enjoyed the tech part, because, you know, when you don't know something, you don't know something. So people always say to me, but I'm not techie. And I'm like, have you ever learned tech stuff yet? And they're like, well, no, because I'm not techie. And I'm like, well, you can't be techie if you're not techie yet. Obviously, you're not techie. You haven't learned it. My goodness. And yeah, and it's exactly the same, isn't it? Like, there is a system, there is a process. This is how you do this. This is how this button connects to this thing. This is how you change the color of this thing. Here is how you connect this email software to this online school. Here is how you make an email sequence. I mean, it's a process. And you know, when people are brave enough to simply learn, all of a sudden we know what we're doing and we're comfortable and we're cruising, you know, and we got that autopilot on, and it's like, yeah, I got this. I like it. Do you like me dropping all my little metaphors here as well?
Yeah.
I'm getting all the puns in so good right now. Loving it. Cool. And so what else do I want to ask you? It's been an interesting time, obviously, us going through COVID. So I think one of the obvious benefits of the timing that you've done this is the fact that we have suddenly and very dramatically moved to an online world. There you are, stuck in Vietnam, and you've been able now to share your first course with people from the safety of your own home office there, and still be able to impact people's lives with that. But going forward, hopefully we resumed some form of normality that we are all familiar with. How is adding an online component to your business, do you think, going to change your business? I mean, what are your plans going forward? What are you intending to do next? And how do you think that's going to impact what you're doing?
Yeah, so I throughout my career, I've always worked for someone else, and at the start of last year, I actually quit my full-time job and became a freelance pilot, a contractor. So I pretty much I'm like a substitute teacher. If a pilot calls sick or if a pilot wants to go on annual leave or so on, I can go and fill the seat for them on a specific aircraft. Obviously, with COVID, I've been grounded since February. So, the Vietnam got quite strict, closed all the borders and so on, and so I've been grounded here. So I haven't been working, and so there's perfect timing to get the online course out there, and that provides me with another revenue stream. So I don't have to rely on the flying as much. But also, it's a chance to provide the information that I have out there, especially to the young and aspiring pilots that want to learn and get into the aviation industry. And hopefully, the big thing is I can set them up with some safety attitudes and so on, that when they go into flying, they have a better perception of what they need to do to remain safe and to enjoy the job more. Right. So I see a lot of people quit. They get, as I said, they get overwhelmed with, oh wait, I wasn't expecting this and so on. And hopefully I can prevent that sort of thing from happening.
Right. And, obviously you've been through the program, so you're aware of the fact that I teach people there's many different types of online courses you can create, and there's many different types of online course businesses you can build. We talk about everyone having to have a lead magnet course, which is obviously what you've produced already. Kickstarters, which are your smaller, cheaper courses to give people with those lower budgets the opportunity to come in and start working with you, right the way through to your authority flagship programs, coach-led programs, going through to having a whole online academy, and then later on, with that credibility really established, building out into having your own retreats and your own immersion programs and things like that. How do you see yourself in your type of industry using those different models and different opportunities to build out your business? I mean, where are you planning to go on that spectrum?
Yeah, so right now I've done the lead magnet, which is the light version of my course. So I'm currently trying to finish off the full version, and that should be done hopefully within the next week or two. Just complete the filming and load it up. But then I'm looking at doing some training for businesses through the online course. Now, one of the things is that as pilots, we're all spread out all over the world. It's very hard to get a central group of pilots or crew or anything into one place and train them. So online courses are a perfect medium to then go and train them and say, well, you're sitting in a hotel in Barcelona right now. Why don't you do your refresher training on this course and so on. So yeah, that's what we're looking at the next big step to do there.
Incredible. So, literally reaching out to those corporates, the organizations, the professional continuous improvements training that needs to be done. A lot of people don't realize, how many different ways in which you can use these online courses. I mean, they're not just for the public. You're talking there about going out to those organizations. One of the ways that my online courses succeeded so much when I first went out there and did this so many years ago was providing a bunch of online courses that I was delivering face-to-face courses that I was delivering to corporates, and then saying to them, instead of having me come in and paying me an hourly rate every time I come into your workplace, I said, well, how about I just give you unlimited access to this online course? Because it doesn't matter if one person logs in or 10,000 people log in at the same time. It costs you the same amount of money as the online school owner. And I said, instead of paying me an hourly rate, just quite simply pay me a fee per month to have access to this online course for unlimited number of staff. Now, I made way more money and they were saving money because they weren't paying per head anymore. And that, this is one way that people who are working with corporates, working with employees can dramatically increase their income. You just go, what's the top CPD training you need or professional development training you need? Put those online courses together and say, dear Mr. Corporate, this will cost you $3,000 a month for unlimited number of employees to access this training, instead of you having to pay me, $500 an hour plus $200 a head or whatever it might be. I'm making numbers up. But that $3,000 a month now just comes in. You say to them, I lock you in for 6 months minimum. And there you are as the course creator, not having to leave your house and travel to all these organizations and offices, getting that subscription payment in, and everyone's a winner all at the same time. Really exciting, Chris. Now, having, just gone through the process, I'd love to ask you, there's people who perhaps are still listening right now, thinking about starting the journey. And I'm sure you remember, just like all of us do, the day one of course creation, we have nothing but a blank screen, a blank page, and complete and utter overwhelm. You've been there, you pushed through that, you've completed your course. For anyone who's in that place of overwhelm at the beginning right now, what tips or advice could you give them?
Be open, your course will change. I think I came out with an idea of what I wanted to say, and then my information adapted and slightly changed and so on. I think I've scribbled out all sorts of different notes and stuff like that. So I think being open and adaptable to your course, don't fall into a negative spiral of closing yourself off and saying, oh, I'm not quite sure, and hesitating and second guessing yourself. Just give it a go and see where it goes. And if that's not the right path, well, then move on to a different path of information and so on. But don't hesitate. Just give it a go.
Great advice. Now, you also, you jumped onto my Concept to Course program. I'd love to just hear from you what your experience was like on that. I mean, there's nothing quite like saying to someone, you've got 20 years worth of expertise and you've got 30 days to turn that into a course. Doof, off you go. Can you tell me about your experience on the Concept to Course program?
So I look, it was great. It was really motivating. I think you ran it really well. I really appreciated the timing. I appreciated all I refer back to some of the information that's in the course and look things back up again while I'm still creating and that. And I think that it's really valuable information. I really like the way you sequenced it. I started off a little bit slow where I was like falling a little bit behind on work, and then I'd just have a good solid day and I'd catch up. The workload is there, and I think, as you say, 30 days, get it done. So you kind of on that pressure, but I found it very understanding with your sequence, and I found it really motivating. And I found the group really motivated each other as well. Everyone was really positive and saying, yeah, look, that's great. Give it a go. I really like that. Those ideas are brilliant. And so, yeah, I think the motivation really put me through, and it was great.
So good. Now, we're going to have all the links, by the way, to Chris's courses, Chris's school that he's built himself in 30 days. It's all going to be in the links below, and how you can follow and stay in touch with Chris down below. If you know anyone who's looking to learn to fly or get into the aviation industry, I mean, Chris is your man. So please do go and check out the links in the show notes for that. Chris, before we wrap up today, do you have any final words of wisdom, advice, final thoughts, or anything you'd like to share today?
Like I said earlier, just don't hesitate, give it a go. I was guilty of hesitating myself. I wasn't quite sure, do I do this? Is this the right thing? I felt a bit of the imposter syndrome, I'm just another cog in the wheel sort of thing. But look, don't hesitate, get it out there and get it done. And, what do you got to lose? Give it a shot.
That's it. It's time to fly, my friends. It's time to get up there. It's time to reach your potential. The world is waiting for you, and your opportunity is quite simply at the other end of your internet connection. A little bit of courage, a little bit of hard work. It's not easy. That's why not everyone does it, but you can do this. The systems, the processes are there. The training is there. and the support is there from people who know what they're doing. Now, if you are ready to fly high yourself, come on over to my next Concept Course group coaching program. The next one is running soon. You can come and join me at sarahcordiner.com/do-it. And I will personally be your co-pilot in helping you create, launch and publish your very own profitable online course too. Chris, it's been wonderful having you here today. Thank you very much for joining us. I've been really grateful to hear your story.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
See you next time. Bye-bye for now.